Shoot, shoot.
Look at Wanda, ready to rock her big presentation. But first, lunch. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Delicious, celebratory, but is it quick? The Cobb salad. Tender oven-roasted chicken, topped with cheese. Prepared, plated, and served in 6 minutes? Is this for real? Well, of course. Well done, Wanda. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Yes, ma'am. Life is sweet.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon on this Wednesday evening. Again, a big show today, talking again with a few more emergency managers, but also kind of giving you a rundown on some improvement in the recovery efforts here across North Mississippi. One of the big headlines today has been that the lines are finally open, the TVA lines that run the main transmission into all the different counties across North Mississippi have all been restored. And with that, local power cooperatives are now able to start connecting at least some of their customers. Where the damage is still there, it's going to take time, maybe more than days into weeks for quite a few spots. But at least according to Chris Brown, a Northern District Public Service Commissioner, we finally have started to see restoration there. Another thing that he mentioned when we talked to him earlier on is that generators are needed, and you can help get those to the Public Service Commission if you can. If you have, especially ones that are 150 kilowatts and greater, local water cooperatives actually need those in order to generate power to continue pumping the water. Tippa First Baptist Church up there is now a Red Cross shelter, and I-22 and 55 are closed. We'll talk about some of those things, I think, in a little more detail here in a couple of minutes. But our headlines tonight, again, latest on the damage in Grenada County in particular. We hope to talk to the emergency manager there coming up here in a couple of minutes. Freezing fog is possible once again tonight. You might have noticed just a little white hue on things out there earlier today. That was that freezing fog as it froze on things. Luckily, most of the roads were okay. And could we see some flakes Friday or maybe even Friday night? I think the possibility is there. It's not a great chance. It's nowhere near what we just came from, but it's not an impossibility that, yes, you are possibly seeing a few flakes there. Maybe for some spots that didn't see them last time. More on that here in a minute. 32 at 7, 27 by 10. And we're dropping low 20s for tonight, so still cold. And certainly if you don't have any electricity, this is too cold once again for tonight. But there are just so many warming shelters out there. I know for some cases, it's near impossible to get to where you're trying to go there. In many cases, if you call the folks in your county, you can usually get a ride to one of those warming shelters. And as the Panola County Emergency Manager said during the 5 o'clock broadcast, they can open more if they need to. Already in Panola County, 150 folks sheltering consistently in one of those shelters. Outside in Tupelo right now, again, everything is largely melted and has melted here in the Tupelo area. What was left on the trees today, melting and falling down. We are 36 degrees at this instant here. Feels like those temperatures are somewhere in the 20s on that north wind. Wind chills remain fairly light for tonight. The real cold weather, the big story there, coming by the weekend. We're back into the teens for some of those low temperatures by then. Out in Winona, power restored where our camera location is there. We're 37 degrees at this time in Montgomery County with those winds fairly calm. And as we check out a camera there in the Cleveland area, a reminder that West Mississippi, Northwest Mississippi, that's where we have had the most significant issues, including some sections of I-55 there in Panola County in particular that are closed so that MDOT can go down and try to clean up the roads. We'll show you some video of that as it's all hands on deck for MDOT there in just a couple of minutes. But looking at Mama Justice Doppler radar, there is no precipitation out there. We are dry. We are completely clear, as I think all those clouds indicated, not just here, but across the entire region. Satellite perspective just doesn't have much. High pressure, the residual here from this big blast of cold air settling through Shreveport, Louisiana. And that's important because that means things have modified. That's how temperatures made it in the 40s today. And that's how I think we'll get a little bit warmer day by day going forward over the next couple of days. As we mentioned a minute ago, the chance for maybe some flakes eventually trying to roll in, but I think we still have some time before that is the case. Thankfully, I think by the weekend, though, a possibility that we could see maybe a few, and then the real blast of cold air starts to get more organized, I think, by then. I do want to bring in, again, the emergency manager from Grenada County, joining us here on Mississippi Live Weather this evening there. Appreciate you, Chris. This is, I'm going to get your name here on there for everyone. Chris Whitehurst, again, joining us here from out there in Grenada County. I know that it's a lot of power outages out there, and you've been working really, really hard. What can you tell us here as of 6:05 on this Wednesday evening? Chris, can you hear me? Give me a second here to see if we can get that in here. Chris Whitehurst there, the emergency manager in Grenada County. I'll keep out of the corner of my eye and see if I see him pop back up, and we'll come back over to him here in just a second if that's the case. We'll give him a moment here to kind of get back in. There have been some issues, again, with internet connectivity. As you'll note, that's just one of the many utility issues that folks all across the region are dealing with. And I mentioned Grenada County. The governor, when his press conference at 4 o'clock, referred to Grenada County as one of the hardest hit locations in the entire state. So certainly Chris has had his hands full. So as you'll note here, again, not a lot of changes in precipitation this evening as we're largely dry and mostly clear. That fog a possibility to form as we look toward early tomorrow morning. You don't really show much of that here on the next couple of hours. We do show a little bit more, though I think some of this is high cloud cover showing up there by around midnight or so. Most indications right there, you saw it for just a couple of frames. Out there, Tallahatchie County, Grenada County, stretching up in here close to the Memphis area, maybe up near the Tennessee state line. A few folks, especially where we've had the melting today, that adds extra moisture to the air, and that then enhances the possibility we see some of that frozen fog overnight. I think that's, again, not something a lot of us see, but something that if you have it, could have some roadway issues and some slick spots out there. So we're watching that potential as we head into early tomorrow morning or very, very late tonight, depending on where exactly you live. So over the course of the first 24 hours here, tomorrow we're looking at about 22 in the morning there, 31 by 9 a.m. We're 41 by noontime. Again, partly cloudy skies there. No precipitation for tomorrow, and temperatures luckily above the freezing point for almost all locations. So we are melting things. But again, it's a process, and there's a lot of spots where that melting is barely noticeable. So I'm talking, of course, View, Alcorn, Tip, Benton counties, Panola County. We saw that again on our cameras there, and locations back in the north and west Mississippi, where that is most certainly the case at this time. So as we look in 60 seconds here, we're going to, again, hopefully be able to get with the emergency manager there in Grenada County. I know they've been balancing a lot of things. Chris Whitehurst is coming on with us here in a few minutes. We're also checking just how cold that weekend forecast is going to get and looking at some limited snow chances. Gabe and I on different sides of this one, and just because I've been doing this longer doesn't make me right. We'll talk with Gabe about that. We'll look at some of those chances and break down your full forecast coming up here in 60 seconds. Chris Whitehurst, who's the emergency manager in Grenada County, I see him on. After this break, we'll talk to him as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center in 60 seconds.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off. No tax, 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
This portion of Mississippi Live Weather is presented by Little's Jewelers.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. So many, again, the power outages remain one of the big headlines as restoration efforts are just going to take not just days, but in some cases weeks. It requires patience, but it also is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears by folks on the front lines of that and trying to organize all the things that impacts, from water shortages to warming stations. The general response is a lot of times falls onto the shoulders of the emergency managers, which is why we've been touching to so many of them here across North Mississippi. With me at this time is Chris Whitehurst. He is the emergency manager there in Grenada County. And Chris, I know that you have to be exhausted. Even the governor in his press conference today referring to your county as the hardest hit in the entire state. So how have you been handling things there?
We're taking it a day at a time at this point. We're steady progressing today.
Yeah. So at this point here, again, power restoration means one of those processes that just takes a lot of time. But the impact, I think, beyond that, I guess, once we understand the power is out, I think the thing that's coming up more and more are these water issues. Are you having any of those in Grenada County as well?
We have been experiencing them. We've been pretty well off. We lost power to almost all of our water wells for all three water districts, but we had generators in place for most of it, and we have been maintaining. We do have a few areas in the Elliott community and in the Gore Springs community that are still experiencing water outage, but as of today, I've worked with the National Guard. They're going to start providing us with some bottled water that hopefully we'll be able to start distributing tomorrow.
Are we at a point where you can reach all parts of Grenada County, residents that might need to get to warming shelters, stuff like that?
The one thing we were fortunate on is the roads in Grenada County are mostly cleared at this point, and this is a big thanks to the volunteer and city fire departments, sheriff's departments, the city, the county, and volunteers that were just out there clearing.
We're going to give Chris a second here because connectivity remains spotty for a lot of spots. Okay, so I lost you there. You're giving credit to the volunteers, you said, and that was the last thing we heard.
The volunteer fire departments and the whole community has really stepped up to get these roads cleared. Now we're pretty much 100% clear.
So I-55 has just been this trouble spot for so many folks. To your north, just to your north in Panola County. I-55 good where you guys are?
I-55 is passable up until about the Tillatoba area. Anything further than that, we've been advising, and they've actually closed down sections of it. We're actually closed down between the 206 and the 267 right now, going north.
Okay, so at this point, you would advise travelers to not use I-55 and not travel at this time of the evening. How would you rate the necessity of traveling like on a night like tonight?
Unless you're an emergency responder, stay off the roads. We have people that were working tirelessly to try to get these roads cleared and everything, and all they do is, if you add more traffic to it, it makes it more hazardous for them.
It really does. I mean, and keep that there and keep it, the MDOT, finally kind of getting the roadway clear enough to get the plows out and really kind of attack things this evening. Do you still have that much snow on the ground, or not snow, but like the sleet sort of combination? Is the ground still white there? I should ask.
Most of the ice accumulation after today, we still have a few spots. The more shaded areas are still a little hazardous, but for the most part, it has deteriorated. Our problem right now is the power outage and cold. We still have close to 4,900 citizens in Grenada County without power.
That's a large number of people, and I think looking at the grid there, the grid map with Entergy, you can see the improvements. Like there's a lot of green on that map, but there's a lot of just roads that it's not. It's just it's taking some time.
Absolutely, we're doing the best we can, and we're getting it done.
So, do you have warming shelters in place, and is that something you're recommending folks come to at this point in time?
Absolutely. If you don't have power, we have a warming shelter at 17 North Main Street. It's been open since about a week before all of the weather started. It's one we try to open up in wintertime, get below freezing. We have opened up additional ones when needed, but right now, with most of the power, or some of the power coming back in the city limits, a lot of the people are returning to their homes.
That's good to hear. Now, give that address one more time. It cut out while you're saying the address.
17 North Main Street. Going to be
Okay,
the city
17
auditorium.
So the City Auditorium there in Grenada, 17 North Main Street, a warming shelter for folks that do need it. And we bring that up with temperatures are expected to get down into the teens this weekend. If I think if folks are fortunate enough that the roads have opened up a little bit more during the day, that they need to be planning ahead if power does not come back on. Have you heard from Entergy their assessment? I mean, I'm assuming they don't expect to have the power back on by then, right? Oh, we might have lost Chris. Go ahead. Are you there?
I hear you. I do.
Okay. I'm assuming Entergy still expects to have a significant number of outages by the weekend, correct?
I can't speak to what Energy's ideas are at this time. At 12 o'clock today, they said that they had finally got the transmission line going into the Elliott substation finished yesterday, so they are working on distribution lines at this time. Okay. So we're hoping to have a majority of the county back up with power in the next 3 to 5 days. Now, I know this cold weather coming in this weekend might be an issue. That's why we're making sure we keep the warming center open. Gas stations here, almost all of them in the city limits, do have power now. So people can fill up with their diesel or their gas for the generators if they do have them. But if they do not have forms of heat, definitely go to the warming center.
So I see in one of the Facebook comments here, and I'm not familiar enough to know if this applies to you. Julia was asking, is Lewis Johnson still open for a warming center?
Lewis Johnson was opened yesterday. They did close it today because I think they only had 11 people staying in it yesterday, and there was still room available at the city auditorium. The warming center last night and counting the Lewis Johnson Center and the city auditorium, slept 51 people. The night before that and the night before that, the one on Main Street saw over 100, and I had even opened up our EMA conference room, and we had about 18 there for one night.
That's amazing. Well, hopefully it does not come to that. It's been a little bit more mild, still cold the last couple of days, but with the weather coming in this weekend, obviously concerns. Anything else you want to add?
I just wanted to speak very highly of all of our county volunteers, our firefighters, our sheriff's department, our police department. They have been doing a great job. Everybody's working tirelessly to get this done. And another thank you to the National Guard. A lot of the stuff that they've been bringing, they're bringing up to distribute further north, but they have not forgot about Grenada, and they are trying to take care of us too.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear that you're getting the support you need. And thank you so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live Weather at 6 p.m. Chris Whitehurst, the Grenada County Emergency Manager. I think I said this in text. I say this every time I get off the phone with one of the emergency managers around here off of this. My phone always sits like a little angle right here in front of me. So during severe weather coverage, it does not move. Sometimes that's annoying to some people. But if you ever need me and you've got something you think will save a life in your county, call me, and can't guarantee I'll answer it, but I will know that something is up. All right.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that.
Okay, I appreciate it. Okay, so as we bring it back in here on Mississippi Live Weather at 6, notice here again the slick road conditions that we're looking at in the Batesville area. It's one of a lot of spots still with icy sort of conditions on the ground there. And as we showed briefly, I'll bring up here one more time to show you the traffic issues related to I-22 and I-55. So Mississippi Department of Transportation putting out this graphic just a little bit earlier on today. As you can see, from Senatobia down to Batesville, closed. They're trying to remove the ice, get the plows there, just finally get it off. This is where it basically was a parking lot on there last night. and there were videos circulating social media, people on ATVs just going in trying to kind of help people out there. Thankful to have those kind of people here in Mississippi, but don't travel along that section of road for tonight. And same thing here with I-22 there from near Olive Branch all the way back there to northwest of Holly Springs. I-22 closed there again, trying to get the ice off the roadways so that we can get people, so we can make them more passable, so we can melt a little bit the next couple of days before a big deep freeze comes. And so they just have to keep people off the roads. No, mostly people from Mississippi have obeyed that. It's largely been 18-wheelers. And so hopefully that is a step toward a bit more recovery. But as I bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here for a moment, Gabe, the cold temperatures for tonight are not as cold as they have been, but we do still have, I think, a pretty significant drop in temperatures on the way.
Yeah, you almost want to call these temperatures mild whenever we're talking relatively speaking, but 32 degrees Batesville right now. We're still going to be below freezing. When we say mild, we're talking about relative to the single digits that we had a couple of days ago. But yes, as you're mentioning, Matt, I-55 over there in Batesville just continues to be just an area where you want to avoid. Stay off those roadways and let them continue to work over there to get things cleared. One big note in our sky cams with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, Pontotoc back online. So getting that power restored slowly but surely across North Mississippi as those crews are still hard at work. We saw the crews out here in Greenville yesterday. That is one of their points where they're stationed at there in Greenville at the airport, continuing to assess what's happening and hopefully get to locations there in Washington County and surrounding counties there in the southwest part of our viewing area. Temperatures right now, 34 in Tupelo, 39 Amory, 39 in Starkville. The feature that I wanted to showcase here was look at the cooler temperatures lining up with those areas that have seen that winter precip linger in the forecast. We're talking 31 Clarksdale, 32 Tunica, 30 Senatobia, 33 Holly Springs, and 32 around parts of Corinth. So that snow, that ice, that whatever you want to call it at this point, that slushy mess, that's continuing to be a big driver in our forecast because it doesn't allow that heat to stick around. But the good thing is, no matter if you have that winter precip or not, we're still seeing that warming trend continue into our Wednesday night and stick around for our Thursday, as well as even warmer air pushes into the forecast. Our Mama Justice Doppler radar not tracking a drop of anything in the forecast, but like Matt mentioned at the top of the show, a flake later on, not an impossibility. We'll go over that in more detail. We'll also take a look at some of those soundings and our snow finder, rain finder, ice finder, all Mississippi Live Weather exclusives, all of that in more detail later on in the 6 o'clock show. Let's keep it moving through the show. And one of the big notes in our forecast is not just what's happening in the sky, but also here on the ground. We're getting that potential for freezing fog. Once again, a little bit of that fog already starting to build, but when these temperatures drop below freezing, that moisture that's in the air, and especially in locations that have seen some of that moisture melt, that's where we expect some of that freezing fog to be in the forecast. Through our Wednesday night, continuing to be with this dry forecast, not just dry, but also mostly clear, way high up in the sky. Right here along the river, that's where we're getting some of that fog to start to form. And you can see basically these clouds building right overhead. That's not clouds. That is actually that fog that will continue to develop into the early hours of our Thursday. So anyone traveling west of 55, be monitoring those current road conditions and be tuning in to our meteorologist Maggie McCauley for the very latest on that forecast and where that fog is the most dense. We don't want anyone to be having to travel out in it because of that freezing potential on surfaces, and that includes some roadways as well. Low temperatures on your Thursday morning. Hey, we mentioned freezing fog. That means it has to be below freezing, and we're getting exactly that with New Albany and Boonville, as well as Oxford, around 20 degrees. Teens possible for Senatobia, South Haven, Holly Springs, and Corinth. 22 Golden Triangle, and 24 around parts of Belzona. If we look at that wind chill, well, of course, it's going to be non-existent because wind isn't exactly in the forecast. So fortunately, those feels like values will be the actual temperatures lining up basically the same for our Thursday morning. Yes. Why did this jump back? This is on now Wednesday night. I apologize there. It did sure jump back. Huh. I don't know what happened there. All right, here's a look at that wind chill. So there you see non-existent because of the lack of winds in the forecast. So the wind chill not going to be playing a part in our forecast. Those temperatures will be those real field values as well. As we look at that school day forecast, you can see drop off around 21 degrees, 37 there by lunch, and 45 by that final bell. Now the fog will be there for that morning commute, and this is for locations that are in school. As we mentioned a little bit ago, cancellations still happening. You can tune into our website for the very latest on those closings. A big note for one of them is Ole Miss is now extended all the way until February 8th. being out of classes. So an extended period of time as they work to clean up those roads and bring back the power. It's just an extensive process, and it does take some time. But nonetheless, our school day forecast for those still in session looking good to go, especially as we get later in the day. Now, one of the big notes in our forecast is we're starting to see this low develop out there towards parts of New Mexico, Colorado, and now northern Texas. As we get into our Thursday morning, you can watch how this low kind of expands into the east and works this warm sector overhead into North Mississippi. Now, I'm not expecting any rainfall with this or any moisture with that warm front, but what it will give us is even warmer temperatures by the latter part of our Thursday. So honestly, a little something to enjoy before that potential flake moves into our forecast. That'll continue into our Thursday afternoon. And as you can see, those mostly cloudy skies still trying to stick around into our Thursday evening plans. So that's the unfortunate part about it, is with moisture in the air, I mean, some cloud cover is going to be in that forecast as well. Bringing it back into North Mississippi for those high temperatures, low 50s not out of the question, with 50 in Eupora, Grenada, Greenwood, 52 Kosciuszko, and 50 around Macon, 48 Amory, 46 around Hamilton, Alabama, and then 45 Senatobia. So still those locations along the Tennessee state line going to be the coldest locations here in North Mississippi. But let's keep this forecast moving and talking about our Thursday night into our Friday morning, because that is where the potential is there to maybe get a flake. And again, we'll go in more detail on this forecast in just a moment. But I want you to pay attention to this system moving across the river, and you're getting the greens of rain, you're getting the pinks of maybe some of that mix, but you're also getting the blues of the snow. And that's going to be those flakes that are moving into the forecast. And that, of course, is attached to that low as that low pressure center moves into North Mississippi, giving us some increased chances of rainfall. And in regards to the positioning of this, that is the big question, because that's where those more significant impacts will be felt. If this low tracks right across North Mississippi, we will have heightened chances of rainfall, but we have seen the positioning have some diversity. And so once that gets more aligned, our confidence will increase or decrease respectively based off of that positioning. But what we do expect is a few flakes working its way into the forecast. That blue starting to show up a little bit more Friday morning. And of course, this is on our strike model, so we're continuing to watch this and compare it to all of our other models and how that consistency is there. But all of them at least trying to sneak in a few of those flakes working into the forecast, and even perhaps a dusting, depending on how much of that falls and how long it lingers in the forecast for our Friday morning. Low temperatures will be cold enough for that moisture to maybe stick around with that dusting. 26 degrees Oxford, 28 Grenada, 27 Houston, and 26 there towards Booneville, 31 in Louisville. So everywhere below freezing for the start of Friday, but these temperatures not nearly as bad as what they were today, and these temperatures were not nearly as bad as what they were yesterday. So we have seen that gradual warming trend continue for our high temperatures and for our low temperatures, and we would love to see that continue. Unfortunately, just doesn't look like that's going to be the case. This low, as we can see, moving through Friday morning, it's going to bring that frontal system that will also cool things off heading into the weekend. As Matt mentioned, it's going to be a significant drop with some dangerous cold air back in the forecast, and so we want to make sure to stay layered up and prepared, and hopefully some more of those power outages do get restored before we head into this colder trend once again. We do expect it to be exactly that. Now, Friday morning, you can see how this moisture dries on out with that low, but some of that wraparound moisture on that low pressure center, it's not impossible to get a few flakes. Now, this is something that Matt and I were talking about behind the scenes. Whenever we have that drier forecast, the snow that comes down is a drier snow. We talk about, snow ratios. This would be on the drier side of things, meaning that even in that drier air, it can come down. And actually, because it's that drier air with that dry snow, then it could also have perhaps an increased chance at a dusting sticking around. So is this going to be a high impact event? No, and I want to put that in place right now. One of the things we talked about was at 5 was, last weekend system, a 10, this weekend system, a 1. Not exactly going to be high impact. If anything, it's just going to be a few flakes that try to linger around, but even by the afternoon, they'll melt on out Friday afternoon because temperatures are above freezing, and this isn't going to be that ice that is way more compact that takes a little bit longer to get to move out of the forecast. So Matt, that's a reassuring sign with this forecast. Honestly, wish this happened last weekend, and I think we'd be in a much better state of mind.
Yeah, I wish it happened every single snow event. No offense to people at home. I wish it never ever snowed here again. That's just me. There's mountains. Mountains exist. Go to mountains for snow. But that's a different discussion. I think it's really the batch that strike shows after that's the most interesting, right? So you have it kind of wrap down the cold air with that, and then watch how we see a few little flurries that develop here late Friday night. I don't know that we necessarily get those, but sometimes on the backside of one of these, as the cold air is dropping, you can wrap back a few flakes, maybe just a little bit of a dusting. That's probably overdoing it to say as much, but certainly something we're watching. Will it cause additional travel impacts? Not on the order of what we're talking about here. I think the biggest travel impact, if we get it out of this, is if we don't end up melting those roads now, right? So if they don't melt tomorrow and we don't get them fully melted Friday, once temperatures plunge into the weekend, 20s for highs, teens for lows, we're going to have some more issues for a little bit longer. So I think that is probably where we have the bigger travel impact from this system.
And it's not just with what's coming from the sky. The bigger travel impacts will also come with those cold temperatures moving in after the system passes. And that is going to allow for that refreeze potential. And unfortunately, if that does stick around, the refreeze potential will be in place for maybe 36 hours in some spots as we do dip below that freezing line for an extended period of time. But high temperatures on our Thursday, you can see 46 degrees by Friday. It will be above freezing, but not by much, around 39 degrees for those high temperatures. And we do have that 20% to accommodate any of those flurries that are in the forecast. Now, by Saturday, we do have some of that 10% chance based off how much moisture is still in the air. But again, the positioning of that low, how quickly it moves on out, still something we're watching heading into the next 2 or 3 days. Now, as we get into the weekend forecast, there's that cold air dropping well into the low teens. 14 Saturday morning, 12 by Sunday morning, and there's that 36-hour stretch we're talking about through our Saturday before temperatures go above freezing once again Sunday, and even by then 34 degrees is no summer vacation whatsoever. But by midweek next week, milder, more seasonable conditions do move in place, and finally we'll kind of break Mother Nature's curse of cold air we've been in for a good while. And I'm excited about that. Even if it's paired with some rainfall, I think we'll take rainfall if it means a slightly warmer air at this point. But before we get there, Matt, we do have a few hurdles. That's one of the things we'll be talking about coming up in Mississippi Live Weather at 6 here in 60 seconds is the latest on that snowfall potential, the flake potential, and how that lines up with our atmosphere analysis. We'll have all of that in full detail on Mississippi Live Weather at 6 in the next 60.
Frozen pipes can cause serious damage. That's why Absolute Restoration is giving away free faucet covers to our community while supplies last. Installing them is easy. Just slide the foam sleeve over your outdoor faucet and secure it snugly. Also remember to disconnect hoses, open cabinet doors under sinks, and let faucets drip during extreme cold. Call or text to check availability, and from our family to yours, please stay warm and protected.
When choosing a dentist for our family, Tupelo Smiles was the answer for us. They greet us with warm smiles right when we walk in the door, and they make us feel so welcome. We love Tupelo Smiles.
Welcome back in here to the Room to Room Weather Center. Still continuing to look at, again, your pictures from across North Mississippi from this ice storm that even still today, a few days later, you're sending in. Anytime we talk about wintry weather, especially after something so high impact, it just makes something inside you bristle up a little more, even as a meteorologist. And Gabe is looking at this next chance that is not good. Well, I'd say the confidence is decent that we might see a few flakes, but amounts and impacts, they do not look anywhere near like what we just came off of, right?
Exactly. And one of the things we're going to look at, or should I say the three of the things we're going to look at is, of course, Snow Finder. We're also going to assess Ice Finder, which we know what it looked like last week. We'll kind of see where things stand, and I think it's going to be a much better outlook. And then Rain Finder as well. All three products are Mississippi Live Weather exclusive. Let's go ahead and get into that. And it starts here on Thursday morning, working our way into our Thursday night. And then these are the hours where we're watching for that potential snow. And this is where we are tracking, 6 a.m. Friday morning. If we zoom things out, we can kind of see where that higher likelihood is well up there into Kentucky. That's where I expect some of the low pressure center to be that gets some of that winter precipitation in place. And also, it's colder air up there, so it does line up. If anything were to fall from the sky, that it would be more in the snow fashion rather than just rain. But here in North Mississippi, it's not impossible. I mean, those gradients showing the very minimal potential that we have, only about 10% there. But watch as we get into our Friday night and Friday morning into Friday night, those lines, I mean, gone like that. So that's basically how long that snow chance will linger heading into our Friday morning. Just a few flurries in the forecast, but what we see up there towards the north, Matt, it's definitely a different likelihood, definitely on the higher side of our snow finder.
And that's the whole point of this graphic, right? To show you where is the likelihood. You can see a clear bullseye. If snow's going to happen, the confidence is very good for locations back out toward Knoxville versus here where if it's going to happen, it'd be flakes. I don't really see any accumulations being detected there on this at this time. So most indications are probably not particularly good. Even when you go beyond that, one of the interesting things is by late Friday night, early Saturday morning, maybe some wraparound flakes. Even then, it's closer to where you're standing there toward the Carolinas where things of significance happen. And for us, it's just probably not. Very, very low confidence for us.
And I don't think anyone will be wanting to take a trip to the Carolinas if that forecast looks the way it does. But Matt, as we look at Ice Finder, I wanted to put this on there, not because it shows anything, but for reassurance for a lot of folks in North Mississippi. Looking at our Thursday night into Friday morning, not a gradient in sight. Well, actually, this is Rain Finder. Do we have that Ice Finder that we can pull up first?
Yeah, you clicked it and I clicked it at the same time, so I'll let you click it.
I gotcha. Well, so yeah, this is our Thursday morning getting into Thursday night. Still no gradients being seen. And as we get into our Friday morning, now this is where that first chance of winter potential is there. And we don't have a gradient in sight, meaning that likelihood not expected to be ice. And we're not adding to any of those already dangerous and hazardous roads here in North Mississippi. That carries over into Friday night and even into our Saturday morning before that cold air does move in place. So Matt, reassuring to see that for sure. But the few flakes not impossible, but I don't think we add any ice pellets to that forecast, fortunately.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just we're at the not impossible stage, not like last week where we were looking at very high impacts out of the situation as well. We have two people trying to drive. I'll let you go.
I'm sorry. I was letting you talk, and if you're like me, I can't multitask, so talking and operating is a little bit of a hardship for me. So I was like, I'll help him out. I apologize. But looking at a rain finder, this is where we're going to see the highest magnitude of impact. It's because of those showers working their way through. It's just a matter of what is the temperature once it moves into North Mississippi, and how do those fare with our chances. I mean, 6 a.m. Friday, you're getting about a 30% likelihood down there around Tallulah, just south of Greenville. And that's where, I expect a lot of the precipitation to be just some light, cold showers working their way through Mississippi. And even carrying over to our Friday evening, you can see how those gradients kind of push on out. And again, those chances really increase up there towards the Carolinas and Georgia. So Matt, it's not impossible we see a flake. I do think that a lot of these are going to be more cold showers, but nonetheless, I mean,
and even then, they're not heavy, right?
No. And so that's where we're not expecting much accumulation, actually pretty much a non-zero accumulation in this forecast. But yeah, it's potential, but don't be alarmed if you do see a few flakes coming from the sky. And actually,
the main thing is obviously the cold, right?
Yes. And that's one of the things of note is it's actually going to be the most mild it'll be tonight, tomorrow night, and then the next couple of afternoons before that cold air really hits into the forecast. And paired with that, I mean, it's still cold, and that's going to have the potential for freezing fog by tomorrow morning. But, temperatures are at least trending in the right direction before they take a big step backwards.
Big step backwards indeed. Thank you, Gabe. And again, thank you all for watching us here on Mississippi Live Weather at 6. Our next live broadcast will be coming up at 10 p.m. here in the Room Weather Center. Any issues related to this frozen fog? We don't have high confidence in it, but it's not an impossibility, especially locations in northwest Mississippi. Well, I'll be honest. I do think once you get deeply into the Delta there, Tunica, back toward Senatobia, up toward Benton, Marshall, Tate counties, perhaps DeSoto counties, I think there's a chance there we could have, again, that frozen fog for some spots early morning on your Thursday. We're monitoring things in the Room Weather Center. Our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, if you haven't checked her out, you've got to do that. She does a great job. She will be on with any issues related to that starting at 6:37 and 7:30 a.m. here from the Room Weather Center. She's on every morning, and she's up there in Tate County, so she'll be able to look out the windows and see if there's any issues related to that as well. A reminder tonight, I-55 is closed for really some of the exits there north of Batesville, closer to the Memphis area, and I-22 northwest of Holly Springs into the Memphis area. I-22 closed so the MDOT crews can try to clear that off. It's a sign of the issues we have out there. She'll have a look at traffic and any issues related to that as well coming up here in the Room Room Weather Center tomorrow morning. For our Gabe Maynard, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. Keep it here for the latest, and we appreciate y'all for supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather.
By the time you see the symptoms of lung cancer, it could be too late. Now there's a new scan that can detect lung cancer early. If you smoked, get scanned.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.